I have the honor today of speaking to Nox Dlamini, MD XonRisk. Nox and I have walked quite a journey, and we've met each other when Nox was a contestant in the 2018 Insurance Apprentice series. So Nox, welcome, and it's fantastic to talk to you today.
Thank you, Rianet. Thank you so much for the platform. Thank you for inviting me. I'm looking forward to the chat. And you took me way back with that memory of when we first met.
Yes. So I think the reason for our conversation today is all intertwined together. Our initial idea was to talk about the role of brokers, but it started off quite interestingly with your journey on the apprentice. The day, take us through that day of the Sasria task.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I don't think I get a chance to tell the story and get how, the trajectory my career has taken is, so entrenched in that particular episode. So just as a bit of context, I think my purpose in the industry, even before the apprentice, has always been just tackling the insurance protection gap. The idea that some people insure, others are not, and what that means for the inequality gap in this country. And that's something I'm really passionate about. And trying to do that in my role, but not necessarily having the exposure to quite know how to take this on in a really impactful way. Now, fast forward to the insurance apprentice and the Sasria task, and I'll just recall for the benefit of everyone who's watching, was a task about small business owners, and it was a Sasria sponsored task. So it was about the impact of riots and strikes that will occur specifically in the township for small business owners, and what the effect would be if they didn't have insurance, and how topical is that right now.
Wow.
But what made this special and different was the fact that they brought on actual business holders who had businesses in the township, and we got to interview them, got to find out if they have insurance, if they don't have insurance, if they understand Sasria, and if they understand what this means for their business in the wake of the riots and the strikes that had taken place then, and really getting to understand insurance and the impact of it through their lens. Because I think quite often as insurance professionals, we drive the message this way instead of really inviting them into the conversation and finding out why we are not advancing as much as we'd like to in terms of the penetration in the segment. So that really was the penny dropping for me. And I realized that there was a huge need and a way to do things differently that would actually impact and reach the people who actually need our services, being the small business owners, being the people in the township who actually would benefit the most from getting a comprehensive and well-tailored insurance program in place.
You saw a gap. You saw a clear gap that day, and the gap was very clearly that there wasn't enough communication and education going their way, right? Fast forward to 2 weeks ago, June 2021, when we had the biggest probably riots and looting that this country have ever seen. You recently also moved to KZN, so you're sort of in the midst of this all. So it's sort of a puzzle that so nicely fit together for me. But when you started XonRisk, part of your journey with clients was what? How did you do that education part that you were so passionate about?
Okay, so I mean it's a big need and big problem, and we had to just manage it and break it down into bite-sized pieces. And we really looked at what are we trying to do, and what we're trying to do is to empower the next wave of emerging businesses and entrepreneurs. And how do we actually really empower? And we said, well, the first thing is we have to drive awareness. So many people are not actually aware that they can purchase insurance or use certain risk management mechanisms to protect their businesses and the assets that they work so hard to acquire and that are so critical to the operation of their business. Okay, so that was the first step. So awareness. The next step being education, right? There are so many misconceptions that actually exist about insurance. and we don't exactly have the greatest reputation in the public. The fact that we're perceived as very quick to collect premiums, but not necessarily to pay out claims. And there's a lot that goes behind that. So we saw a gap in terms of there's actually a real need to educate people on the reality of what insurance is and dispel the misconceptions that exist, and how business owners can actually utilize insurance as a mechanism for growth and sustainability to make sure that their businesses stay alive, their businesses can grow instead of dedicating resources to plugging exposures and holes left by the negative impacts of risk. They can make sure that they dedicate that insurance premium and focus on growth generating activities in their business. So education as well as awareness was our formula for actually empowering clients. So that's how we went about it. In a practical way, what that meant is we did a lot of small business workshops. We partnered up with a number of organizations that target small business development, because we see risk resilience and risk management as a critical element of developing and building a business. So by slotting ourselves into those organizations, we thought that we would add value to these entrepreneurs. We would make sure that they entrench risk management and start thinking about these concepts of insurance, of managing their risks right at the onset of their business, instead of it being an afterthought or something that they only do once they reach a certain size.
That is fantastic. And you COVID hit, and you also moved over to some webinars, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you have to. In fact, it's so funny. You sign up so many clients via these virtual platforms now. I remember meeting a couple of clients when I did a trip up to Joburg. And it's the strange thing where you've spoken so much and you've interacted so much virtually, but it's actually your first time meeting. And it's like, wait, how dare we? Because you feel like you know the people so well, but actually you never actually know. So it introduces such an interesting dynamic.
How do you get new clients? Is it word of mouth now in a big way?
Yes, so there is quite a referral, and the reality of the business that we're in is people buy from people that they trust, or people will look to people that they already know to get referrals. So we generate quite a lot of business organically that way, but also just trying, like I said, we built relationships with quite a few organizations that are in the business development space, and by offering that value upfront, I think they see us as a credible partner to approach when it comes to actually talking about the insurance conversation.
That's fantastic. So then the riots happened. Some of your clients have bought insurance. Others thought you were waffling. What happened?
Exactly that. Obviously, we had a few clients who were affected, and they were part of the lucky ones, because the claims are ongoing right now, and they, in as much as their businesses are affected, they will be indemnified. They will continue operating, and there'll be minimal impact to their finances and their operations.
And the one who listened to you?
Yeah. And then, like you say, a lot did think we're waffling, or a lot were still thinking about the conversation, or, the purchasing decision as to whether to take it up now, can I afford it? And I always say, that question of affordability is you can't afford the impact of the risk when it happens. Yeah. And unfortunately, it takes an event like this to drive that message home. So in as much as we've discharged the risk advice, we've discharged the gospel that insurance really can save your business. It was too late for a lot of people, and those businesses are suffering right now. And we've received quite numerous requests to assist, numerous requests to effect cover after the fact, which obviously we can't and doesn't help for any events that have already occurred. And it's quite sad, Rianet, because this is something I'm personally very passionate about. And the impact of this is that people's livelihoods are affected. People's businesses are affected. So we're quite entrenched in the rebuilding efforts and making sure that the risk resilience conversation is a critical element going forward. You can't rebuild without making sure that you're more risk resilient going forward. And I also welcome the president's announcements that small businesses without insurance will get some form of assistance. I'm hoping that will offer quite a bit of much needed relief. And the fact that many private citizens and corporates are stepping up is also a good sign. But I think much bigger than that is the conversation of what do we do going forward. And I think people now really realize the importance of insurance.
Is there a need for some innovation on the small businesses side, the informal businesses in the townships? Is there enough? Is the rates low enough? Or do you think that more can be done in terms of products and that whatever goes with that for these markets?
I definitely think we're lacking as an industry. There is a top-down approach in terms of pushing products, and we're pushing products that quite simply aren't being bought. And whilst we know that there is a need, how do we make sure that we bridge that chasm in terms of people actually buying what they need to fill the gap that is left by their exposure to risk? So from an industry perspective, I think we're too rigid in the manner that we sell insurance, in the underwriting that we do, and there definitely is a need to relook at the whole model. Instead of just taking the standard multi-mark and trying to tweak it here and there to accommodate, maybe let's just, break the whole thing down and get some business owners into the room and talk about, okay, if your business needs insurance, but currently doesn't purchase insurance, what are the needs for that? What are the reasons for that? I apologize. And I think that's why the penny dropped so much for me on that SASRA task, because we got to interview actual people who are impacted by these, who run these businesses, and get their reasons for not purchasing insurance or not making that decision. And there's a plethora of them, Rianet, from quite simply just not understanding. So there's a need for the broking fraternity to step up and go to this market and explain the products a bit better. The number of times that I've gone to a small business workshop and the entrepreneurs in the room tell me that literally no one has ever come to speak to them about insurance is scary. So, and you can understand, you can unpack this in so many different ways. Yes, the asset base is low, so the remuneration aspect is probably not as attractive for brokers, but that can't be the only reason that we leave a segment of the population, such a critical segment, small businesses to our economy, underserved when it comes to insurance terms. So it's an issue that needs to be addressed. There are a couple of players that are stepping up to the plate, that I'm liking the work that they're doing, but in terms of just industry efforts, collectively, there is a need to just look at the products. Do they really serve the needs? How do you know that they serve the needs? What is the market research? Have you actually talked to the people who are supposed to purchase this? And are we distributing it in the way that reaches them? Is it in a language that they understand? Maybe it's not just even a matter of simplifying it to plain English. Why do we not have policy wordings in multiple languages? So I think we need to ask ourselves a lot of these questions and go back to the drawing board and not just sit in our fancy offices and, unilaterally draw up these policies, but make sure that we include and collectively build up the products that are actually supposed to serve and help the people that we want to impact.
Exactly the message that I wanted to get over. Thank you, Nox. I've been asking the question, are we serious enough? Do we know that people get that information, or and everyone is convinced that the message is going out, but I knew from conversations with you that there's definite gaps, and thank you for the role that you play. I do believe there's more of you and there's more in you, but it's a start. So your journey started. I think I would like to believe that the Insurance Apprentice was a nice jumping board for you into this amazing thing that you are doing now. So tell people who have thought about it but not long and hard enough why they should enter the Insurance Apprentice 2022, because applications are obviously open.
Do they exist? Are there people who still doubt that they should enter the Insurance Apprentice? It's quite literally the biggest opportunity for anyone in our industry. for exposure, for growth, for both professional and personal development. You will be stretched in ways that even you can't imagine. I always make the joke. I remember walking back into the office the week after filming The Apprentice back in 2018 and going to my boss, "Is this all you have for me? I'm capable of so much more now." That's a true story. But the reality is you will grow in ways unimaginable. You'll be exposed to the industry as a whole and really realize the width and the impact that this industry has for this country. And I think that will inspire you to go on and do amazing things, whether in your current role, if that's what you're meant to be doing. But if you have aspirations of doing more, it will certainly put you in connections with the right people. You will gain a host of mentors from the entire industry. Captains of industry are available at your fingertips, and you will realize that they all really just want you to help, and they all believe in the youth and want to develop the youth. And that's really what it gives you access to. And the effects are wide-reaching. It's not just when you film. It's not just the 8 weeks of filming. The relationships are long-lasting, and you will constantly be able to tap into them. So it's one of a chance opportunity to really grow in ways that I think if you're serious about your career, this really will afford you that.
Thank you, Nox. And today, just briefly, you are sitting also on the other side of the competition, joining hands with Judge Dredd, Simon Coleman. So I think you're a fantastic
nemesis.
You're a fantastic judge, and thank you for also participating in that way for us. But I appreciate you. I'm very happy that our paths have crossed a few years ago. Thank you for what you do for the industry. And I am watching you because you're going to go far with your mindset and your attitude and your willingness to change things. Thank you for that.
And thank you for building the platform and growing the platform that allows us a voice in this industry and enables us to actually step forward and bring our dreams to life. I can't imagine that I would have been able to do so without this very huge springboard. So thank you to you and the work that you do.
It's a pleasure. Luckily, I love what I do.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nox. It was great chatting.
Pleasure.
And let's catch up soon.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.